Do you honestly believe that these teachers are quitting their job 2 weeks into the school year because they're not getting paid enough, or because the politics that they're dealing with from outside of the classroom is too much to handle? No, that's not the reason. The reason why they're quitting is because these kids are mean, and they're making the classroom a war zone, and they're getting zero support from parents at home and from admin on their campus. This 100%.
So this video, this person is talking about why teachers have been quitting, and this is their standpoint on why. And I can say that I fully agree because I've seen many videos, I've heard many horror stories, as they call it, on these sites where the children are just absolute demons, acting like, they were just in the wild. The parents don't have any accountability or aren't helping the child in any way. And also the teachers get no support from the people in within the school, like the principal. They don't help out. There's no consequences for these kids acting this way. And students are even having the goal to fight their teachers now. Imagine having to deal with that, and you're just coming there to learn. Well, excuse me, you're just coming there to teach the students, have a good smooth day, help them learn something, and but they're just there to cause destruction, fight, have no respect for, especially for authority, and the older people around are just trying to help them out, and the parents not instilling any important values in them. Then yeah, of course the kids are going to act like this. And what's the teacher supposed to do? All you can really do in that situation is remove yourself. So let's see what more she's going to say about this phenomenon.
Percent stems from the stuff that they have to deal with day in and day out from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. inside their classroom. It's the stuff that you have to deal with inside your classroom that makes you burn out and makes you never want to come back. I understand that so many of our kids are dealing with rough lives at home and are dealing with trauma, dealing with mental illness, dealing with learning disabilities. All of those things make it difficult to thrive in school, and I understand that. But the problem is that all of those things are no reason to treat other human beings like a piece of garbage. Regardless of your opinion of teachers, most teachers that I know wake up every single day excited to teach whatever lesson that they've spent hours planning and creating. And they want to have a meaningful experience with the students in their classroom. They want to have a good day. And I know, speaking for myself, I woke up every day praying that it was going to be a good day, praying.
Yeah, the kids, yeah, it's very understandable. Everything that she listed are components to make the child act out. But also, then why is that parent not there supporting that child and being attentive to that child's needs to help them as much as possible to be able to function outside of the home? I'm not saying there's parents that don't do it, because there are definitely kids that they're raised in the best circumstances. The parent does everything that they could do. They've done all the right things, and that child still turns out to be horrible, or they grow up and act a way that's not good for society. But to the parents, parents I've seen in these type of situations on certain videos, they act entitled, they defend the child with their life. They see little Timmy as the best kid that could have ever been born. He could do no wrong. It's that student's fault, or that teacher's fault, or the principal's fault. It's never on them or the child. So with that circumstance, that's a downfall for both the kid and the teacher as well. Let's see what else she's going to add.
That the kids that I had that day were going to be as excited about the content that I was ready to present as much as I was. And most days, that is not what I got met with. On the daily, teachers are getting cussed out, spit on, hit, flipped off, their equipment is getting broken and stolen. There are bullies in class that are relentless, not just to their own fellow students, but to the adult in the room. Imagine if you had to deal with that at your job. I'm speaking to non-teachers right now, right? You would not put up with that. You would stay somewhere where you were treated with respect and you knew that you were safe in your work environment. If someone came every single day to your job, bullied you, hit you, cussed you out, rolled their eyes at you, treated you like you were nothing, like you were garbage, you wouldn't want to come back either. You would put in your 2 weeks notice. But for some reason, so many people believe that we signed up for that because that's a part of teaching, and that's just how kids are. I made the decision.
Yeah, no, because it's one thing to have disrespectful students. That's almost inevitable when you're teaching. There's going to be that one or a few students that will be disrespectful, but it's another thing to actively cause physical harm to the teacher and the other students in the room. I can't tell you how many videos I've seen where the student and the teacher are throwing dukes, fighting, the teacher's defending themselves because this student felt a way about what they said, or maybe they didn't like their grade or couldn't go to the bathroom, and they just took it upon themselves to beat on them like they were a fellow, I don't know, like an enemy on the street or something. That is definitely a point where you have to draw the line and separate yourself, because teaching is not like a super easy job to get into. You have to have the patience, you have to have the material, you have to know how to handle the classroom, leadership skills, scheduling, knowing where everything is at, and reporting, all that stuff. It's hard enough. You're not getting paid as much as you deserve for teaching, and then you're getting beat on by the students. Yeah, it's not worth all of that.
Decision not to return to the classroom this year. And I haven't been in a classroom for months now, and I still have nightmares, trauma nightmares on a weekly basis about my former classroom and my former students. And yes, it is a parent and an admin problem just as much as it is a kid problem, because the difference between now and 20 years ago even is that 20 years ago, when you would have a kid cuss you out, hit you, smack other kids, ruin your property, steal things off of your desk, there was going to be somebody on campus that was going to back you up and find a solution. But now that's not the case. Suspensions are down because they want those numbers down. They want to look good. They're not suspending kids for getting in fights and being violent in the classroom anymore. It's just not happening. Even in the early...
That's a good point. Like, I feel like also kids have absolutely lost their fear in everything. They don't care at all. It doesn't matter what you threaten them with, what you say to them, the time you take into trying to instill that incentive to want to learn. Nothing matters to them. They don't care. And when you look around at why, like everything she said, why would they care? So it's like, at the very least, the parent could at least be that disciplinarian to put some fear in them and make them respect the others around them that are there for their own good. But that's not even a thing either. So of course they're gonna run wild and not care to listen to anything whatsoever that these teachers are trying to say. So that's very unfortunate as well. Backup was a lot more guaranteed back then.
2000s and 2010s, when I started my career, I was assured that if I called a parent to tell them about what was going on in my classroom with their child, they were most definitely going to say, "I am so sorry, do what you need to do, I'll talk to them when they get home." Right? That doesn't happen anymore either. It is a parent problem because we're getting met with the same attitudes that we see in the classroom that we're seeing at home from parents. A doctor or a
Yep,
nurse,
exactly what
somebody
we've been
comes up to your
saying.
nurse's station and starts yelling and screaming, throwing things, cussing you out, calling you names. What do? You get to call security and call a code violet. As teachers, we can't do that anymore. We try, but then the kid gets sent out of the class. They are given a snack, and then 5 minutes later, they're back in the classroom ready to terrorize somebody else. There's always going to be only one adult in the room and 30 kids. And as soon as we put our attention on the one kid who's causing the disturbance and the violence in the class, then everyone is going to turn to us and say, well, why aren't you looking after the other kids? Why aren't you doing your job in teaching these kids?
Right, it's a lose-lose situation. And at the end of the day, it's not realistic to expect one person to be able to teach 30 kids in the same class properly. Even if that teacher is doing their best, not every kid is going to receive the teachings the same way. And all students aren't going to be as respectful and receiving the lessons and having that respect for the authority as some others might. So it's not to the teacher to make sure everything is in line. They're not even in the higher power. You got the parents that definitely have direct influence on the child, and if they don't care, then they're already messed up from the get-go. Then you have the principals not wanting to hand out the suspensions, or they just reward the child and hope that they just don't cause any trouble, and it's very much brushed under the rug, and then it just keeps happening, and then the teachers get scrutinized for not handling the classroom and the kids right. And it's like, it takes multiple people for a village to work. You can't have a whole school building only looking at the teachers to handle these things. There's higher ups and there's different things that circle around for a reason for everything to work. So it's really unfair for teachers these days that they get no help, they get underpaid, and they get basically beaten by the people that should be respecting them and just trying to learn something and then go home. But that will be all on this topic now. What do you think of this? How do we get these students to take the schooling more seriously? How do we get them to see that, this is not the way they should act and they should definitely be more respectful to the teachers, and for the parents to also be more accountable, not blaming everybody else but their own abilities and what they could do for that child. Do you think schools are too scared to hand out those suspensions? And will they ever have that incentive to do that again to further encourage kids to be more civilized in a school building? What are your thoughts? Please share them in the comments, and please make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy hearing our perspectives. We will see you again in the next one, and until then, take care and have a good one.